The word hate is a strong word to throw around on a whim, but the guy I'm talking about today, well, he deserved every last bit of hate that he received.
It's MasterChef, not Masturbate.
Believe me, this contestant took making mistakes to a whole new level. And thanks to his impeccable cough skills, he's managed to piss off the judges all the while keeping all of us glued to our screens. Yes, I'm talking about the king of kitchen disasters, Tali Clavijo. I mean, this dude had a talent like no other. He could turn classic dishes into, well, let's just call whatever he turned them into unrecognizable and leave it at that. Just like what happened in episode 4 of season 3. You see, Felix had the advantage of choosing the style of food for everyone else to cook after winning the mystery box challenge. The judges presented their most intimidating dishes, from which Felix would have to pick one for the rest of the contestants. While Joe obviously came up with Italian risotto, Graham presented a classic New England clam chowder, and Chef Ramsay, well, any guesses? Of course, it had to be beef Wellington. And what was Felix's pick, you ask? Well, check this out.
A stunning risotto.
Now, you might initially think that you went for the wrong dish. But if you've seen like 15 minutes of Hell's Kitchen, you can probably guess where this is going. Fortunately for Felix, she didn't have to cook for the round, but the remaining contestants had 45 minutes to beat the elimination challenge. While none of the contestants wanted to go home over something like a risotto, Tali came up with something that had the judges questioning where his head was even at.
I think Tali is kind of really out of his comfort zone. His technique is all...
Yeah, definitely way out of his comfort zone. Which is why he should have chosen to play it safe instead of experimenting like that.
I mean, there's certain things that never go in a bloody risotto. Cranberry's one of them.
He doesn't know when to stop.
Forget about the technique, Chef Ramsay had a problem even with the ingredients he went for. And believe me, there had been some serious doubts about how it was going to turn out in the end.
I'm seriously concerned. He is in hot water.
Once the time ran out, it was time for the judges to taste each dish and determine the bottom 3. And here comes our hero with his version of risotto.
Joe is definitely the scariest judge. He's the judge to win over.
Yup, Tali believed that Joe was the key to the MasterChef title, but would the tough man be impressed by his dish? Let's check it out.
I made a pistachio, cranberry, cherry, and gooseberry risotto.
It sounded like an interesting combination of flavors, but not one that Joe looked ready to accept.
You know what it is? It's garbage is what it is. What you did on that dish is inappropriate.
It's safe to say that he found it pretty off-putting and completely destroyed Tali over it.
And ultimately kind of disgusting.
Given Joe's description of the dish, I thought this would be Tali's last time cooking in the MasterChef kitchen, right? As for Chef Ramsay, his reaction was even worse. If that doesn't speak volumes, I don't know what will. The famous chef simply couldn't let go of how bizarre the whole combination of cranberries and gooseberries were for a risotto of all things.
The nuts, the gooseberries, already just unheard of in a risotto. That is a disaster.
Yeah, for me, they'd be better off in oatmeal. Anyway, after the underwhelming performance, it wasn't surprising to see Tali in the bottom 3 alongside Dave Mack and Helen. Jot this down because it's gonna be a hell of a time moving forward. After Helen was saved, the ultimate decision came down to the 2 who remained, Tali and Dave. Ramsay made it abundantly clear as to why Tali found himself so close to getting cut.
Tali, you're not safe either.
Chef Ramsay schooled him for trying to fool the judges with the odd combination of ingredients, but Tali was quick to defend himself.
Sorry, Chef, this is my first time cooking a risotto.
Despite all that, the judges decided to eliminate Dave for some reason. Most everyone in the room was taken aback by the decision, but Chef Ramsay asked him to head back to his station with a little warning.
You have dodged that bullet. I'm telling you, you are flying by the seat of your pants. Back on your station.
However, instead of being grateful and working on polishing his skills, during his time on the show, Tali gained a reputation for conspiring with another contestant. Yep, I'm talking about Ryan. In an attempt to make themselves look good, they ended up targeting Monty for no apparent reason. So what happened is, in episode 6, Ryan won the mystery box challenge. And as a result, he received some advantages for the elimination challenge.
The theme of today's elimination is fresh versus convenient.
The theme of the challenge was fresh versus convenience food, and the chosen ingredients were ahi tuna, ham, and crabs. Since Ryan had to pick the main ingredient, guess what he went with?
The most amazing. Crab.
Additionally, he had the power to determine which contestants would cook fresh crab and which ones would work with canned crab. And what did he choose for Tali?
And Tali the fresh crab.
Interesting.
Ryan did everything in his power to ensure that Tali didn't go home.
I can't afford to have Tali go home.
And handing him the fresh crab was a huge part of his strategy. Anyway, cut to the challenge, and each contestant had 60 minutes to scrape together something with their canned crab or make something actually nice with their fresh crab. And Tally was pleased as punch with his and Ryan's little plot.
Ryan totally hooks me up. He gives me the biggest, freshest crab on the table.
Meanwhile, Monty, who landed canned crab, saw things for what they were.
I hope Ryan gets crabs.
But sadly for this contestant here, it became a daunting task to handle a live crab.
So it's just moving around?
Yeah, it's just moving around. Live.
Can I beat it with my cane?
Yeah, Ryan clearly wanted Christine out of the competition. I mean, why else would he hand the blind person a live crab, right? Christine, who was clearly struggling with it, even got injured along the way. But look at Ryan, will ya?
It pierced me.
That cunning smile. Not cool, man. Not cool. Anyway, as time went on, the judges started to discuss the contestants' progress.
He doesn't know if it's a baked crab.
Lack of vision, lack of clarity.
It's like an ADD.
Tally and Helen had nothing even resembling proper direction in their dishes. But Tally thought he was nailing it. After all, his dear buddy had given him the pick of the litter.
Ryan gave me the live crab. He knows that live crab is definitely much better than the canned stuff.
Anyway, when it was time for the tasting, Tally presented his dish, being paprika buttered crab with saffron and watercress sauce. And the judges' reactions were insane.
Jeez, looks like a horror movie.
Horror indeed. I mean, there couldn't have been a better description than that. Just look at it. Tally actually took the best crab and butchered it beyond recognition. After the shock set in, Graham couldn't figure out how, or rather what, he was supposed to taste.
You're not seeing the art behind the plate here.
All he could see were the crab legs sticking out of the plate in an eerie arrangement fit for an insane person. As for the crab meat, it was completely missing.
Where's the whole, all the
I put it into
back
the
fin crab meat in the middle?
When Joe quizzed Tally about it, guess what he said?
I put it in the sauce.
A perfectly good crab, fresh crab, and a pretty expensive one at that, was reduced to nothing but sauce. Tally couldn't have been more disrespectful. To the judges or the crab.
Based on that performance, I'd start packing my knives if I was you.
Ryan's plan backfired horribly as Tally, his ride or die guy, stood a serious chance of going home. Despite the negative feedback, Tally remained confident in his abilities.
My stuff is so good that they can't even see the potential.
Talk about delusion. Anyway, once again, Tally found himself in the bottom 3. Remember how I said this was going to be a running theme? And by the way, Christine, who was actually faced with a real challenge, managed to impress the judges.
Are you really blind?
Yes, chef, I am.
It wasn't just delicious, but it also looks stunning too. That takes some real skill considering the person who plated it literally couldn't see. But between her and Tally, only one of them looked like it was thrown together blindfolded. Ryan tried his very best to throw Christine out of the competition, and Chef Ramsay knew he'd play dirty. To teach him a really good lesson, guess what Ramsay did? He asked Ryan to step forward and taste Christine's amazing ceviche cocktail. Yeah, he literally made him eat his words. Speaking of, the other contestant Ryan had a bit of an issue with was Monty, and she decided to push the boundaries by making a Scotch egg with a crab shell. And guess what? It turned out to be yet another complete success.
It's delicious.
I mean, the famous chef couldn't stop singing the praises of her dish.
There are chefs in this town that would love to have that on their menu tonight. It's bloody delicious.
Joe also appreciated Monty's dish.
Great idea.
Thank you.
I really like it a lot.
Thank you.
Well, Ryan's strategy had fallen flat on its face. As always, Tally found himself in the bottom 2, this time alongside Helen. But as luck would have it, Tally dodged a bullet once again. It's times like this that make me wonder if the show is rigged. Like, how could the judges not see through his pitiful excuse for talent, right? See, I know Helen didn't deserve to stay at all, but I believe neither did Tally. Like, come on. It's not like we've never seen double eliminations on the show, and this episode totally deserved it. However, Tally would go on to stay on the show for a long time to come. But did he use that time to better himself? Of course not. In episode 7, Ryan and Tally teamed up once again against Monty for, again, no apparent reason. But maybe the group challenge they lost against her had some role to play in it. Either way, the two of them found themselves facing the pressure test. But instead of just admitting defeat, they started to badmouth Monty instead.
We want Monty to go home. Some girls have like one screw loose. I feel like she has like 30 different screws loose.
Why, just why? I have no idea why these two guys hated her at all. In fact, they even shared that Monty should have been the one in the pressure test instead of them. See, the problem here was that Tally had a very inflated ego, if you haven't figured that out already. As for Ryan, he wasn't much better.
Ding dong, the witch is dead with a capital P.
Anyway, fast forward to the pressure test, and things didn't go very well for Ryan. He was the first one to present his dish, but unfortunately, the cake he baked collapsed, and Graham shot back with a pretty nasty comment.
I'm not a scientist in baking in the kitchen.
Anyway, let's see what his partner in crime, Tally, had to present.
Oh.
Tally faced some similar difficulties with his cake and ended up having some liquid in the center. Wait, did I say some? Well, I take that back. Because here is what it really looked like. The judges didn't really have much to say about Tally's dish. And when they were done with the deliberations, Tally and Ryan found themselves in the bottom two facing off against each other. Now this threw viewers into a hot debate. While some wanted Tally to leave due to his gross lack of skill, some others wanted Ryan out for trying to game the system. But hey, at least the dude won a mystery box challenge, right? Anyway, the final decision was in the judges' hands, and here I was praying for a double elimination for the second time this season. I mean, it would be perfect, right? The two best friends who worked together to sabotage everyone else got thrown out of the competition together. Couldn't get any more poetic than that. However, the famous chef had other plans. He first threw an unexpected twist by asking them a rather thought-provoking question.
I'm gonna ask that individual who knows who he is
Oh no, that wasn't the end of it. There was more to come.
that didn't produce a stunning molten lava cake to act on integrity.
Honestly, when have you ever seen something like this on MasterChef before? This is even crazier than a double elimination. The contestants had to step up all by themselves and hand over their aprons and their dreams at the very same time. But who do you think had enough integrity to step up?
Tally, upstairs.
Tally didn't move a muscle as Ryan decided to take off his apron and walk to the judges. Essentially, he volunteered to leave the competition, and Tally, despite being in the bottom two for 3 consecutive weeks, found himself safe thanks to his buddy's sacrifice. Ryan decided to give it all up for his friend, but if I go ahead and replay that moment for you one more time, you'll quickly notice how Tally didn't flinch one bit as the judges waited for the contestants to make a decision. It was a silent message to Ryan to pack up and leave for his sake. The dude didn't even spare his own friend. Either way, from there on out, Tally had a challenging time in the kitchen due to his consistent poor performances or a dream team to fall back on. Despite his ambition to be creative and use complex techniques, he lacked the necessary knowledge and often failed in his attempts. In one particular instance, Tally's station was in complete disarray, with kitchen equipment scattered on the floor. Chef Ramsay, who happened to notice this, was floored, no pun intended.
Look at the mess.
And what was his excuse?
Put it all in one space.
It's not in one space, it's from there all the way down and all over the place.
Yeah, safe to say that wasn't gonna cut it.
If you were in any of our kitchens,
Yes, chef.
you'd been fired 6 months ago.
Not gonna lie, I thought Tally would get kicked out right then and there. And then, suddenly I remembered this wasn't Hell's Kitchen. Anyway, despite the chaotic scene, Tally presented a 3-cheese pizza with duck breast and crème fraîche sauce. And what do you think that went like?
It's served on a bed of raw flour, right?
My intention was to roll out my flatbread and get it into the oven.
Yeah, just like you thought, it was a waste of everyone's time yet again. Ryan definitely stood a better chance in the competition than this poor excuse for a cook. Just look at all that raw flour. Ugh. I can't believe the judges actually dug in to taste that damn thing.
Yep.
Of course, the judges decided to come out swinging with some heavy criticism, especially Chef Ramsay.
You work in a mess, produce a mess. I'm struggling to identify what the hell you're doing.
Ultimately, Tally's downfall came from his delusions, thanks to which he struggled to recognize his flaws. He continued to brag about his apparently hidden skills, which I believe are gonna stay on the down low forever, given that they didn't exist and all. See, it's essential for aspiring chefs to have a realistic understanding of their abilities and to be receptive to constructive criticism. They need to improve to succeed in a competitive environment like MasterChef. But Tally's attitude ultimately led to his elimination, which was a long time coming, by the way. Yep, episode 11 finally spelled doom for Tally. That's 11 episodes too long for me, but better late than never, right? So, in this final challenge, Tally received Arctic char as his protein. Now, Tally decided to use a sous vide approach to cook his fish. But the famous chef wasn't so sure about that.
It's an oily fish.
Yeah.
Why would you sous vide that?
But Tally, as usual, assumed that he knew it all.
It cooks it in its own juices and it keeps that flavor locked in.
What the hell? You think you know better? During the tasting, it became clear that Tally's Arctic char with green lentils didn't meet the judges' expectations. And this time, Joe wasn't mincing words.
Broiled lentils, because I can see they're all exploded and overcooked.
He then also called him out for using big words to describe his dish instead of just being straight up with the presentation. As for Ramsay, he was even more critical with his feedback.
Watch you cook and I just get so pissed off with you around. You're misinterpreting the competition.
And then, just when you thought he was done, he dropped the mother of all bombs.
It's MasterChef, not Master Bait.
Ooh, that was brutal. And guess what? It just kept coming.
It's badly seasoned. It's just a mess.
It was almost like the judges got up and chose violence against Tally for the day. Eventually, none of the judges had anything positive to say about the dish. And this time, Tally found himself in the bottom 3 alongside David and Christine. And then came the ultimate elimination that everyone was hoping for all along.
Tally, your time is done in MasterChef.
Tally was finally shown the door for his poor performance. Correction, let me reword that for you. He was eliminated for his poor performance, which consistently became poorer and poorer every single episode. Suddenly, all is right in the world. It's clear that Tally had been struggling in the kitchen for some time now, and his elimination was ultimately for the best. Throughout the competition, Tally's lack of skill and unbearable persona became all too apparent. It was almost like a train wreck that you just couldn't look away from, right? The judges, and all of us alike, were left scratching our heads at how someone could be so clueless in the kitchen and yet so full of themselves. Despite several chances to turn things around, Tally just couldn't get his act together. But hey, let's not be too harsh here. Even though Tally was a total disaster as a home cook, his presence on the show taught us an important lesson. Not every home cook deserves to be a chef, let alone a MasterChef winner. Lesson number 2, being cocky and stubborn won't get you very far in any walk of life, but especially not in the kitchen. Anyway, so what's Tally been up to after the show? Maybe he's got a not-so-secret bromance with Ryan going on? Now, you might all know that Tally was a musician from Chicago before joining MasterChef. Despite being eliminated, he didn't let that discourage him from continuing to cook, although not professionally. In his professional career, Tally had experience as a recruiter for tech startup companies. He worked as a recruiter for WAG Labs Incorporated, a tech startup company, before joining Lucky Day as the head of talent. Currently speaking, Tally is working as a recruiter at Edify. Maybe he finally found it in him to step back and reevaluate his approach, and maybe even come back stronger and wiser in the future. Who knows, cause stranger things have happened, right? So, do you think Tally deserves the crown of the worst chef that's ever been on MasterChef, or did I miss the real king or queen of the losers? Make sure to let me know in the comments section down below, or you could also leave me a message on my social media pages. And as usual, don't forget to drop a like, subscribe, and turn on my post notifications. Plus, hey, if you thought this video was crazy, then wait till you see this next one right here, since it's even crazier.